Hello everybody, looking at the end of Thursday, November 8th. Scott Stevens here, and we are looking at that nor'easter storm. The one that we talked about was not a duplication of Sandy, but certainly an event that rhymed with the situations meteorologically that allowed Sandy to set up. Low pressure system just off the Cape with the strong north winds, and what was different with this storm than Sandy is the cold air. With temperatures at late this afternoon, actually early evening back east now, in the 20s across large portions of Quebec. With that cold air being drawn in, we have seen snow in the higher elevations from Massachusetts through Connecticut, not into Long Island, but into the mountains of Pennsylvania yesterday. And as the storm has tightened up and weakened somewhat as she moves on out into the Canadian Maritimes, still dealing with the rains and these persistent winds, all in a situation where within a week after dealing with Sandy, we're needing shelter, especially Staten Island, the Jersey Shore, Long Island, Fire Island, so forth. These places still dealing and reeling with the impacts of Sandy. Deep storm up in over the Hudson Bay with very cold air, with Arctic high pressure temperatures in the teens below zero at mid-afternoon across Anchorage, Alaska. Not so much Anchorage, but Fairbanks. And as you move into the Yukons, the red number here, the -6, that is the air temperature. -11 is the dew point. We've got two concentric circles here. That essentially telling me that the winds are calm. 7 above at this location, 14 above Fahrenheit in this location in northern Alberta. So this cold area of high pressure, this 1039 high, now nosing into the Great Plains states, into the Dakotas. And then you can see the cloudy skies and north winds. And sun has been a rare commodity across the northern plains and Canadian prairies over the last couple of weeks. The sunshine you've been missing. This cold air now pushing into the Oklahoma Panhandle. Ahead of it, we've got 80s and middle 80s across Texas. As the warm air is returning, the humidity is going to begin to recharge. And then out west, we have got an impressive season-changing event. The low across Idaho, the Great Basin of Nevada. And let's pop back out, and we'll look at the center of this storm right as the sunset happens across off of Hyannis in Massachusetts. There's the center of the low. If you saw me on Facebook yesterday, we had a picture of that crazy low. In fact, let's pop that up here on the screen. This is the center of that low yesterday. And you can see that the low, just a very, very unusual event. There's all kinds of geometry that is now showing up in the center of these storms, with this little flare here, a little face-like feature, other ripples and the shapes. It's just a little bizarre what is happening with our clouds in this particular day and age, as they are subject to all kinds of unusual energies into the sky, and then what that makes our clouds conform to, or what kind of shapes they have to take. In any case, this is what is happening with this low. It is kind of filled in rather nicely. When they're being profoundly engineered off on this side, you'll have a big vacated area that almost matches in size what happens with the primary center of the low, with the rain center. This is the offset, this is the void, and then this is the fill zone where the rain is happening. We've already got the clouds clearing through the Mohawk and the Hudson River valleys, and it's clear back east, and still the showers across the capes of Massachusetts, and you can even see the rippling in the clouds, showing the energy that they've really thumped into this particular storm. All right, we want to pop out. Want to look here and across Minneapolis over to Madison, Wisconsin. A swath of trails. They're just thick up here on the leading edge of this next storm. And then with North Dakota under the cloud cover, on top of the clouds, we're certainly finding those trails. And then some incredible geometry showing up in the cirrus shield. Look at all of these holes and the flares and the unusual shapes coming off of this. In this cirrus that is advancing across mid-Texas this evening, right at sunset. So there's got to be some crazy sunset pictures of these clouds, and probably laced with trails as well, as that extends on up towards the Panhandle and then into New Mexico. Let's pop out west, and we can see this next storm. Here's the center of it with the cold front here. Inland, we've already got a weak cold front up into central Idaho, but the clouds are hashed up again. See this punctuation point here with the clouds in these cones flaring out behind it, and then the clouds are piled up here. There's just unusual shapes, things that caught my attention as a weatherman 10 years ago, and that I've been struggling to explain and show to other people and just not getting very far with it. But once we look at the weather on this fine scale, this imagery is 1 kilometer resolution, or 1 pixel representing 6 blocks. And so it's relatively fine, and everywhere we look, these structures, this imprint of man, this imprint of technologies, this imprint of waves is over everything with these storms. And that was quite an adjustment for me to get a hold of. All right, I'm going to pop to the water vapor imagery. This shows us this storm over the last 24 hours as it has moved very slowly off the coastal areas of Massachusetts. In fact, we're kind of getting a second center, and even a third one looks like it's going to be entrained into it. So these two will probably become the primary portions of the storm. Meanwhile, the back edge of it advances across the Niagara frontier, and we'll push through the Adirondacks and Catskills tonight, then eventually out to sea tomorrow, as the next storm says, hey, out of the way. And it's in here that we have seen all of the chemtrail activity happening this evening. Let's go to the west. There's the next inbound storm, and in the center of it, we've got this line and the 2 nodes, or the 2 holes that tend to shape many of these storms. And around these holes, you will find the comma head beginning to take shape. We'll watch that evolve through the remainder of the night. The moisture, I'm about right here, so what you'll see outside of my place when we do the camera shots is advancing in this direction. And then let's do the GFS. This is the upper air analysis. We're looking at the 500 millibar level, which is at about 18,000 feet up. It's halfway through the atmosphere, through the density of the atmosphere, so that is about 18,000 feet. Here's the deep low as it comes into Oregon. Here's the storm now leaving New England, slowly pulling away. This storm is the game changer for the west. It brings a little bit of rain, not lots. It will bring some snows to the higher elevations, but what it is bringing is temperatures that are every bit of 20 to 40 degrees colder than what has been in place for a couple of weeks now, because we've had some beautiful weather out west. That is now changing. As we get to Sunday morning, the trough now moving out into the plains, a cold front about right in through here, and then beautiful weather returns to New England. The south winds come back. New York City should see a glorious Sunday with temperatures probably pressing the upper 60s, maybe even low 70s. Could be on tap for this weekend as we move through the mid-Atlantic states, New England, and certainly into New England by Monday. In advance of this, I would also expect to see a raft of chemtrail flights ahead of this storm, and in particular ahead of this little wave on Monday morning from New Orleans all the way up through western New York State and then into Ontario and Quebec. Another storm sits off the Alaskan coastline that begins to dig to replace this one, which is now weakening as it moves into northeastern Canada. And by next Wednesday, another storm. This one may have dug out far enough to tap a little Pacific moisture to bring in some rains into the coastal areas of central and southern California. This is typically their hot fire season, where the Santa Ana winds kick in. And after a summer of hot, dry weather, the vegetation is exceedingly crispy. And so this could be a very good event to get some water on these hills and to get things greening up before we have to go through a Santa Ana wind kind of situation, because that could be an ugly thing for those kind of people, for those people in California to deal with. But this storm presently has just not been capable of bringing a whole lot of water to them. Some showers, some higher humidity, but that has largely been the bulk of that particular effect. Here we're on the 8th of November, very much towards the end of the day. Had a lot of clouds, not a lot of trails. They've been up there, but it hasn't been a terribly target-rich day. So I'm stepping outside after doing the satellite imagery, and I hear this plane. This is obviously a UPS plane doing the chemtrailing. But, this is my favorite time of day with sunset coming up. And just watching this one head into the sun. Not really leaving a marking one, but he's low enough. It's low enough that it's very, very easy to hear him, and you can see he's in the clouds. As you can see, there's some reduction of his visibility because he's in the clouds, so these clouds are pretty low. But on the horizon, we've got this impressive storm coming in from the west. ushering in a lot of cold air to the west. This is going to be in this valley. We'll have our first sub-zero nights in about 3 days' time, probably Monday morning. That's 4 days' time. And so a big weather change is happening out west. A lot of waves in the sky, a lot of clouds that are hashed out out on the satellite imagery. You can see those. Even this, look at this little, this looks kind of like a little goblin. 2 eyes looking off to the left with a little mouth, and then some flare coming out of the back. But just all kinds of unusual shapes out there that you're not going to find in a typical fluidic operating environment. Now I'm seeing his trail reflecting the light. It's very much having a pinkish hue. So we're seeing that mixture. And if we were to go to a full wingspan spray, then we would see this trail stick more than the 8 to 12 seconds that it is presently. So that's my horizon. Sun's already down, and I'm not going to have a whole lot to contribute to this other than just a look at some of the very interesting clouds that are kind of on the horizon, and then over the mountains. Just over the mountains. So probably leave this at just the satellite discussion, and gratefully the folks back east, this storm is now pulling away, and we'll get some improving weather into that part of the country by the end of the weekend. New York, Boston, Baltimore, D.C., you're going to be in for some gorgeous, gorgeous weather. Some nice mid-November weather with temperatures 10, 15, 20 degrees above normal. And it'll certainly be welcome after the last 2 weeks you guys have gone through. All right, everybody, we'll check in tomorrow. And keep looking up. And nothing changes. Nothing changes until the people see.